Here's what's making news now around Indiana. Well, a new report out this week confirms Indiana's farmers' worst fears as they've been fighting through a very tough season after unrelenting spring rains and then periods of extremely dry weather. The Iowa-based pro-farmer grain marketing newsletter recently surveyed the state's corn and soybean crops and calls the situation, quote, at the bottom of the worst ever. Undersecretary of Agriculture for Trade and Foreign Ag Affairs Ted McKinney stopped by our studios this week, and he says there are additional factors making 2019 a very tough year for many Hoosier farmers.
Well, there's a number of factors in that, and many people out there in your audience don't understand that farmers are price takers. Yes, they have marketing techniques, but they can't go set their price and raise it when times are tough. They are price takers. So there's a number of things that are contributors. Some of it is cyclical. It's just plain cyclical, although this is now an extension of the cycle. Clearly, lousy weather at different parts of the U.S. this year in Indiana in particular is tough. The trade disputes, no doubt, are a contributor to that, and frankly, just many other things. So we're hoping, that's why we continue to focus every day. That's why I'm about 300,000 air miles into this job of opening up new markets, and not just focusing on the big markets, but the smaller ones. If we can't get that done, we're in trouble with our farmers, and that is not what we want, because they are producing, we want to sell what they produce.
McKinney has been in and around ag for much of his life and served as Indiana's Secretary of Agriculture from 2014 to 2017. If you'd like to hear his whole take on the state of ag, in particular the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Well, NASCAR fans are gearing up for the 26th running of the Brickyard 400. That's next weekend. The Big Machine Vodka 400 at the Brickyard, powered by Florida-Georgia Line, will set the stage for the playoffs and serves as the crowning event for NASCAR's regular season championship. Indianapolis Motor Speedway President Doug Bowles is here now with more on how attendance remains a top issue, a challenge, but also talk about how important the race is for Indianapolis. Doug, as always, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks for having me.
I want to talk about that attendance issue in a moment, but despite those challenges, there's no question this race, the Brickyard 400, remains important for NBC, for NASCAR, and for Indianapolis.
Yeah, it's important to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but certainly for our community. It is more people attend the Brickyard 400 than attend an NFL football game. And while we have 235,000 permanent seats and you put 75,000 plus people in the venue, it kind of looks empty and people give us a hard time about it. It's still a huge crowd. It's still really important. The economic engine that is the Brickyard 400 is important. Hotels, motels, the taxes we collect there that go to help fund a lot of our things downtown. It is an important thing for this community.
Talk about, I know you and others at the Speedway and elsewhere have been addressing this attendance issue, getting more people out there, more interest. What are some of the factors contributing? What are some of the things you're looking at doing?
Well, one of the things we've really focused on, we moved to September, which next year, obviously, we're moving back to July for another reason, but we moved to September to try and get folks out of the heat. This year, it looks like weather so far looks like it's going to be really, really strong. We've added a dirt track race, the BC 39, as a way to connect as short track folks. The FGL Fest and music is really important. We've found that to be really successful in May, and we think it'll be really successful around the Brickyard this year and even next as we change dates. So those are some of the things that we're really trying to do. The other thing, just trying to reconnect with the community and remind people how important it is for this community to have the Brickyard here. If you've been flying in the last few weeks and you've come home through Indianapolis International, you've seen the Brickyard, all the imagery, all the big machine imagery there, just because we want people to remember that even if you don't come to the Brickyard, I want you to be proud that the Indianapolis Motor Speedway hosts events like the Big Machine Vodka 400.
And some of the events you mentioned, the dirt track race really connects with the roots of racing in Indianapolis, and it was very popular.
Absolutely. Last year, the first year, sold it out, was fantastic. The short track racing, especially in the Midwest and Indiana, is the heart and soul of motorsport. There are so many people that go to their local Saturday night track, and they love to see an opportunity for that Saturday night local star to get a chance to race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And to do it through midget racing has been fantastic. We had 110 cars entered last year. We're going to have pretty close to that again this year. It's a fantastic event. NASCAR drivers drive in it. Connor Daly drove in it last year, IndyCar driver. So it brings everybody who is anybody in the sport. It takes a chance chance at running that midget race at the Speedway.
One of the things I think is interesting, too, we talk about the importance of the race, the importance of this race to the drivers who are there. We all know how special the Speedway is. These drivers really want to win this race.
You know, one of the things we hear an awful lot is, can you move the Brickyard to our road course? And you probably could, but the drivers love so much winning on the oval that Ray Haroon won on, the oval that AJ Foyt won 4 times on. There is some history and tradition, and with the exception of the Daytona 500, which is NASCAR's biggest event, there is nothing like winning at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for those drivers. They want to win there. It means an awful lot. So the prestige of the Speedway for the drivers is absolutely there.
From a strategic standpoint, you continue to look at different things. You mentioned next year the race will move to July 4th weekend.
Yeah, July 4th weekend, and that gets us back in the heat, which has been one of the struggles and things we heard from fans. But as we stepped back and really looked at it, the opportunity for Indianapolis market and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to own the 2 biggest summer weekends, Memorial Day weekend and then roll it right into Independence Day weekend, fits an awful lot with our brand. It certainly fits with the way the brand of Indianapolis and Indiana, we celebrate those men and women who've served. So be able to kind of take pride in being an American and celebrating Independence Weekend. We're going to build a lot of things around that weekend. Next year, as we kick off the 200th anniversary of our city, that's something that we'll tie in there as well. So there's a lot of good things around July 4th, we think.
Doug Bowles, president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the Brickyard 400, coming up in the weekend ahead. A lot of activity out at the track this week ahead. Doug, as always, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.